offer it both in granular and in liquid. And Humate is really a wonderful collection of organic acids. And organic acids can be treated as building blocks. Organic acids can be treated as ways to change over food availability in the soil. Organic acids are used in other compounds for the health of the soil itself, as well as a food source and a type. There's a whole range. I am literally a little overwhelmed with Humate. It's got, and what's most common to most people is the humic acids and the fulvic acids. The fulvic acid is a great carrier. It helps move nutrients within the plant very well. It's a transporter. And so where did Humate come from and where do we get ours? So we have multiple choices. You can get Humate in lots of different, is that okay? I'll just go ahead and take the Humate. You can get Humate. Yes, sir. Nick.
Just really quick before you go into this, humic versus fulvic, both of these acids are within the humate. So you're saying,
right? Yeah, that, you know what? Before I do anything else, sometimes people get confused. Humus. Some of us have heard of the word humus. Humus is just a very mature soil. Okay, it's more mature than compost. You can have humus in compost, but only if it's mature compost. You can have it in soils where, where it's very, very old soils. You can have humus. Some people say there's not really anything that's not really an accurate term. That's kind of a very broad term, humus. That's not the same thing as humate. Okay, we use humate as an overall broad term, like dogs. What kind of dogs? You can have German Shepherds, you can have Poodle, you can have Golden Retriever, you can have all different kinds in that. So it's a group name, but an even better group name for humate is Leonardite. And it is from the guy that actually kind of came up with it. His name, it was Leonard Nimoy from Star Trek.
Are you lying?
I'm lying.
She's lying.
But anyway, so Leonardite, which we use as a common term, humate, which includes many, many, many micronutrients, has humic acid in it, fulvic acid in it, and a whole bunch of other kinds, almanin acid and humanin, just a whole bunch. I'm overwhelmed by it personally. And what it is it comes from decomposed living material that has been superficial in the soil for a really long time. And so you can get to it very easily. So it's easily oxidized. Thankfully, this is the only one that goes into this kind of detail. And and it came from when the upper part of the United States was underwater. And then after glaciers and everything else, it pulled it back. All of that was left to die, decompose. And so here's the bottom line. It's made of a whole bunch of different organic acids. It's all natural. And it is immediately bioavailable. Okay, so you're able to actually utilize it and have it immediately feeding biology, having immediately providing nutrient sources to the plant because it's so bioavailable. And that's why we really love it. And that's what we can sell it. You can sell it by itself. That's available for you to do, as well as we take it and we charge our biochar with it. It's very good for charging. Is it the only thing you can charge biochar with? No. You can have clients who can add compost. They can add compost teas, fertilizers, all sorts of kinds of things. But we chose that mostly because it's so bioavailable. It immediately kicks into the soil. And so that we really liked. So that's humate. We also have naked char.
So in brief, I know there's just a couple people that just came in, our humate is essentially, in summarization, is essentially crazy old compost. It is better than that, but In simple terms, it is tens of thousands of years old decomposed plant life that is immediately bioavailable to the plant, to the soil biology. So it doesn't take any energy to break down, and it's freshwater source. So it's a really great food source for the biology.
Quick question on that charging. So let's just say there's like 100 sites on the biochar that could be charged. Is that humate just the best like broad spectrum to charge all of those sites compared to say if it was like a fish hydrolysate, it might not charge all the sites on there, or I don't know.
Okay, so you're gonna have, good question, interesting question, Nick. You're not gonna have a difference in some sites charging and others. There's no actual fit, that it's all gonna be the same. It might, some of those sites, which mostly are gonna be the pores, the edges of the pores, you're gonna have oxygen in there, you're going to have water in there. So they're not all going to be available for the humate to actually be absorbed.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's going to fill in. And that's why we, by the way, blend it and then let it meld a little bit like a good chili. We let it sit a little bit within so that we don't just mix it together and then throw it in there. We have it, we go through a process of holding it in the bags for a while. Just to make sure that it mixes well and adheres to the biochar.
Sorry, like granular and liquid, just granular? What?
Well, with the granule, okay, now we're moving to Vital Blend,
Okay.
where we take the biochar and we blend it. So that's granular. And then with the 5M, the Vital Blend 5M, we take that biochar. Well, and I don't want to take away.
Well, but he's, I think, more talking about the liquid humate by itself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking about humate?
Yeah, like you guys are you guys, when you're doing this blending, is the blending just granular humate that is blending with the granular biochar? So you're saying?
Right. And then when we do the
Yeah.
liquid Vital Blend with the biochar that's in suspension, we literally put it in liquid humate.
Gotcha.
It has been a solvent solution kind of a thing.
And so that is the humate. And anyone who missed Laurie's talk on that, I'm going to email you this at the end. Moving on to our naked char. Our naked char is our pure biochar. It is made of only southern yellow pine. And we use this softwood feedstock because we know it is going to give us the most porosity. And we think that's the most important part of biochar. That is what we're hoping for, is to get a very good porous structure in the soil to house soil biology, but also to hold more nutrients and water at the critical root zone. And so our biochar, we have it by itself in the naked char, and then we also wet mill it down to a 5-micron size, and we suspend it in water with liquid humate. To make our naked char, it's just suspended in water. So it's that biochar milled down to 5-micron size, wet milled. And that is a difference because we have competitors that will have a dry, and it's much larger micron sized, a dry powder biochar. When you dry biochar, it actually can become hydrophobic, and it will not take on water as well, or sometimes barely at all, and it'll just bead off of that biochar. And so it kind of defeats the purpose of the biochar completely. Same thing with pelletizing biochar. We're sealing off with pelletized biochar. You're sealing off a lot of that pore space, and so again, defeating the purpose of what biochar is. So we leave it in its raw form for the granular. It's just like about a coffee ground size. In the liquid, that 5-micron size naked char can fit through any drip line irrigation backpack sprayer. It's not going to clog anything. Then we take our naked char, and I'm going to talk more about the benefits of naked char and humate as we get into our Vital Blend. Because our Vital Blend and our Vital Blend 5M, as most of you know, are those ingredients combined. So the Vital Blend granular, and I'm going to actually pull up a document once I admit somebody. Let me share. Can everybody see? I don't know if it says it's sharing. Do you guys
Yep.
see this document here?
Yep. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is our new Vital Blend granular label. A lot of you haven't seen this yet, so that's exciting. I'll make it smaller so you can see the whole thing. This is for the 1.5 cubic foot bag. And this theme will be presented throughout all of our products, the Naked Char 5M, Vital Blend 5M. So you'll be able to see kind of the same theme throughout. And we tried to make these labels a little more user-friendly for the end user. They have more detailed application rates, methods and protocols, that kind of thing. So when you get this document, you can look through it. But with our Vital Blend granular, the benefits of using Vital Blend granular are going to be the same benefits that you're seeing with the Naked Char and Humate by themselves, but combined. So we're going to see increased survivability, promoting, longer lasting flowers. They'll bloom earlier in the year, last later in the year. Improved nutrient density and harvest weight of crops, germination rate of seeds. You're going to increase, obviously, the ability to retain more water and nutrients. And they blend very well with other fertilizers, amendments. The Vital Blend is a great addition to any
Potting soil,
compost. Yeah, anything you're blending with. It also will help improve drainage, the Vital Blend granular. You're adding some airspace within the soil. That's going to help with percolation of the water throughout the soil and also help in root development and reducing compaction. Of course, when you have a healthier soil biology, you're going to have increased defenses against pests and environmental stressors.
Water holding for the soil itself.
Preventing damage from remediation, preventing damage from salts, heavy metals, toxins. And again, the biochar that is in our Vital Blend is going to remain in your soil for 600 plus years. So this is a nearly permanent structure that you're adding, and you or your customers can know that you are creating a long-lasting solution to their problem. And it's something that you build up on year after year to create this environment for the biology to thrive by giving them a perfect home and a perfect food source. And the difference, and I have a full document created about the differences between granular and liquid, that, there's some benefits to either or. So I can send that after the meeting too. But the granular is going to be a little better at remediation than the liquid. And the granular is also being in larger particle sizes, going to help break up consistencies in like very sandy or very clay soils where they need more airspace. So we have a lot of customers that will do, 1, 2, 3 applications of granular and then maintaining with liquid for its cost effectiveness. Granular is also better if you don't have the access to water. You can see in this picture, I'm just pouring it onto a tree underneath the mulch. So it can be a very easy application without having to mix anything. And we know our ingredients, biochar, which is our naked char. And I already told you what that's sourced from, and the granular humate, which Laurie already told you all about. And it has our humic, fulvic, and other organic acids, 60 macro micronutrients, and it's a great adjuvant, surfactant, and chelator.
In fact, agriculture has been using linardite for a long, long time, and they'll take the liquid and they'll put it in so that it mixes with whatever they're using, fertilizers, whatever. It's such a good adjuvant that it's been used for a long, long time. In that, it also, humate is a great surfactant. Surfactant is where it breaks the surface tension of the water so that the water moves through the soil better. So it's all, even just by itself, it's a great product. So we just think it's an excellent addition to the biochar.
Definitely. Then there's our applications. So one thing that you do want to note with your customers, and personally, I like my customers to try it if they have large commercial spreaders before they, jump into too large of a purchase, because the granular can tend to bridge in their spreaders. It can be up to 50% water weight, which is why we sell it by volume. And because of that moisture and the weight of the biochar, and the humate, it just doesn't spread as well into like a seed spreader. You're going to have issues with that probably. So it will need to be some type of compost spreader or like a self-propelling that pushes it through. And there are spreaders that work with it, but it would be, something to try.
And something to discuss with them.
And otherwise just putting it out by hand. What's great is nature isn't exact and our rates aren't either. You're not going to over apply this. We don't want them to waste money. So we have application rates that we recommend them adhering to, but it's not a huge deal. They can grab a couple cups and throw it around the plant, and it can be very easily applied by hand as well. And so we use about 1 to 2 cubic yards per acre for a row or specialty crop, and which is about 1 to 1.5 cubic feet per thousand. About a cup per medium plant, or 3 to 5 cups per inch circumference for trees. On our label at the top, you will see we do tree rates in circumference and DBH. So
jump up to that real quick. Not close. Yeah.
That's here. So 1 to 25 inches circumference was a small tree. They'd get about 1.5 cups per inch. If it's 0.5 to 8 inches DBH, they'd get 5 cups per inch. And that's they're correlating rates. Same thing with medium trees. If you'll get a little bit less per inch for a medium tree, and a little bit less per inch for a large tree. And that's just because it's more established. The tree has more established environment already, and it won't need as much. Also cost effectiveness.
Yeah. And so why DBH versus circumference? We have a lot of users, clients who will determine applications of materials, including this, that use a DBH tape. I know, for example, we have Carrie joining us today, and Carrie would determine how much of a tree growth regular he would use by the DBH. But there are a lot of, maybe homeowners who have no idea what DBH means, diameter breast height, and they would just want to be able to do the circumference of the tree, just take it and go around the chest height of the tree. And by doing that, by having both the DBH, we abide by arborists who are more professional applicators that would want that, and also for anybody else who want to do it but would just use circumference. So we've determined that we need that. How much water do they add? Because that's another one that a lot of times they will ask us.
Well, this is granular.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
So
never mind. No, Laurie.
No water. Well, they get the water in afterwards, but it's also just some things to note since we're back up here. We do, if you notice, like we have a range of rates, landscape and garden plants, 1/2 to 6 cups per plant. That's a pretty big range. And if you look over on our protocols, that range of rates is dependent upon current soil conditions. So good soils use less, poor soils need more, but it's also conditional upon the size of the plant. And it says that up here, depending on size.
Or the plant itself is in great danger.
Right. So, because again, nature isn't exact. If you have a little small plant, throw on 1/2 cup. If you have a large burning bush in your yard, it can use up to 6 cups. And so depending on the size and the condition is the range of the rates. Also for agriculture, if they're applying in furrow, they can use less. If they're fully broadcasting it across the entire field, then they'll use the higher rate because there's more surface area, obviously, that they're covering.
Okay, good.
And
I like the label, guys. I really like the label.
You can
really good.
Yeah, we've been working hard on it, so I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, looks great.
One other thing that we had a whole meeting about, so I won't go too deep on it, but the note that when using a pre-emergent, it's best to wait 2 to 3 weeks to apply the Vital Blend to let that pre-emergent do its work in the soil before Vital Blend remediates any of it.
Which is a great thing. That
Yeah,
that
we want
is,
to be able to remediate that additional that isn't working anymore. The work's already done. Let's get that chemical out of the soil by, in housing it into the pore space of the biochar.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the best practice is wait 2 to 3 weeks for pre-emergence. Everything else is pretty much fair game. But there is a helpful note when applying foliar herbicides. Because that's foliar contact, you can do a preemptive application of Vital Blend and protect your soils so that the herbicide is killing on contact, but it's not killing the soil as much.
Because herbicides, pesticides, glyphosate, amines, all those are the kinds of things. Those are still going to be used by a lot of our clients. That we have agriculture that's going to do standard farming practices, and we can at least meet them halfway by offering them to be able to help improve the chances of survival of the soil microbes, or increase the, they're regularly, especially fungi, they're regularly trying to catch up on what they've just been knocked down from whatever was put on the soil. So we want to continue to help that soil be able to rebound back quicker, protect as much as it can, as well as rebound it. So just a side note on that. Can't wait to keep it. Tony, did I see Tony's face?
Yeah, I wanted to check back in to see if anybody else was trying to get in.
There he is. Hey, Tony.
There's Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Okay. So thank you for letting me grab that from you.
Please grab what you need. I just wanted to, oh, look, I think there is.
Oh, is there?
No, that's from Nick's AI thing. We'll have to,
Oh,
okay, I don't know. There we go. I just wanted to make sure nobody was waiting on us to get in. Okay. Okay, so moving back down, we talked about the benefits, we talked about the ingredients and the application. Some suggestions, you can reduce the volume of nutrients or fertilizers by a minimum of 15 to 30% when using the Vital Blend. Like we mentioned, for the 2 ingredients, biochar is going to provide more holding capacity, so you have less leaching away. And the humate is really great at breaking bonds of those nutrients so that it's easier taken up by the plant. So together, their efficiency, and they're making what other products you're using work better. So we definitely recommend cutting other application rates, which will help pay for the Vital Blend.
and then hopefully save them more money and all of that. Yeah.
And you can reduce your water because of the same exact reason. And it can be applied directly, or it can be applied with other mixtures. One thing to note, going back to the naked char, and I know we've mentioned this before, but some of our distributors, they don't sell naked char right now, and that's because naked char granular and naked char 5M are pure biochar uncharged. When applied directly to a plant, it actually can pool nutrients if it's not pre-charged, which our Vital Blend is. We fill some of that pore space so that it's not so available to be able to take. Now, the naked char pooling from a plant is only a temporary thing, and eventually those pore spaces would be filled organically, which is okay, except in the meantime, until it fills organically, you can definitely see that there might be some reduction in the efficacy until that happens, because the plant will be losing some of those nutrients as that pore space is filled. So naked char and naked char 5M, you want to pre-blend that with compost, fertilizers, manures, compost teas, worm castings, whatever you blend with. Blend our naked char or naked char 5M with that.
That's what I wanted you to say.
We blend with humate, which we've already discussed. We think it's the very best thing to blend with, and that's why we do. So the Vital Blend, being that it is charged, can be applied directly to a plant, and you will not see any of that.
Well, and I was going to say there might be one time when you might put the naked char by itself, or the liquid naked char, and that is if you're aggressively trying to remediate, remove contaminants, and in that case, the weighing out, we allow that to
we want to pool. So if you have a
salt.
Yeah, and I'm talking heavy salt, because even salt remediation, if it's just, there's a little bit of browning, Vital Blend. But I would say for aggressive remediation, you can use the naked
Yeah,
char.
yeah.
Where you're not as concerned about the plant as getting the soil healthy for the future of the plant.
Exactly. Good point.
So all of these application rates can be done all in one application, or you can split them up into 2 to 3 applications a year, up to 4 applications. You can take the smallest rate, and if you're doing multiple applications, you shouldn't need to go too much higher than our highest rate. So you can take the highest rate and split it up. But we have noticed there's an increased benefit if you do multiple applications, because you're spreading out that humate feeding, but not so much that if you're not going to already be at the property again, that it's worth doing multiple applications if you're not going to be there. So it definitely can be done just one time a year. And you can reduce rates after a few years once you're seeing the desired results. So then we have some results. And you guys have seen some of these. This is a turf at a golf course where they had a new drainage pipe put in. They were not able to get this established, but 30 days and 45 days after one total application, we were able to see those results. And here's some arborvitaes. This was before and then 30 days after one application. I think about 5 to 6 cups was added per tree. Trees were planted in very poor soil. It actually came from an organic resource center, and the soil was not good. It was very bad. And so they were dying not long after planting, and there's probably some transplant stress there too. So able to do that. Here's a remediation of a golf course. I know we've talked about this before. They applied quite a heavy amount of pre-emergence and some other chemicals on accident. And we went in and remediated. We actually had seen root growth in their new sod within 7 days after an application. And this soil was dead. I mean, it was completely killed off. So we got great remediation rates, as you can see over here to the right. Yeah, I think you should make it a little bit bigger. Yeah. And like I said, you'll be able to get those documents too. And these were knockout roses in a park in Mishawaka. You'll just notice these pictures were taken the same day. These were on either side of a sidewalk, and the ones with obviously bloomed significantly earlier. They were doing significantly better, more blooms, brighter, more vibrant. Same thing with down here with these were planted around the same rock. So moving into 5M, and there is the same ingredients. So I don't really need to go over the ingredients, except for the fact that just like we talked about with our naked char 5M, our Vital Blend 5M is made very similar way. The biochar is wet milled down to the 5 micron size, added to liquid humate and water. The liquid Vital Blend does tend to be a little more cost effective in terms of application rates and cost per plant, tree, area, etc. You'll use about 4 to 6 ounces of concentrate per 1,000 square feet, so it's just a very little bit. Same concept with the range of rates, like this landscape plants, 1/2 to 4 ounces of concentrate per plant. Same concept, depending on poor soils or good soils, and the size of the plant will determine the application rate within there.
I think one of the things that I have seen on people's faces is when they hear it's only 1 to 2 gallons, and 2 is high, 1 to 2 gallons of the Vital Blend per acre. That actually, I've seen
no, it's incredible. I think to be able to use that small, and the reason that we're able to get such great rates with such a small application is with the liquid compared to the granular. And I think it's like 30 times the amount of granular product that you would use versus liquid. And the reason being is the liquid is the 5 micron size, more of that pore space is exposed. So it's more easily utilized by the biology.
Faster and used faster too, response wise.
They're easy, it's easier and faster to get to it. That also, being more exposed can, believe it or not, the liquid has shown to hold more water and more nutrients than the granular. And I think it was about a 40% water holding capacity increase in one of our tests for the Vital Blend 5M. And the Vital Blend granular was about a 17.9% increase in water holding capacity. So it's almost twice as much water and nutrients that are held by the Vital Blend 5M. So just because you use less and it's cheaper, it's still very mighty, and it is definitely not less good. It's not less good than
It's not less good. That's our
that's
our
the Vital
tagline.
Blend granular. It definitely can hold its own, and it's our flagship. We sell most of the Vital Blend 5M for sure, and we'll go more into application rates below. But so the benefits, a lot of them are going to be very similar to the Vital Blend granular, but the difference is it's very concentrated, so you have low application rates. The 5 micron size won't clog any of your sprayers. You will, and it is more cost effective and easier to access that pore space. And here's a picture of Mark applying it to some plants through one of his sprayers.
Yeah, Jessica, question on that. Have you guys ran into any issues applying 5M like as a foliar, whether it's a really high concentration or a low concentration? Like, have you guys seen any issues or like interference with photosynthesis, that type of stuff?
Well, what I will say is that technically Vital Blend 5M is not to be used for foliar applications.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt, but it does its work in the soil. So you want to get it in the soil. But you see in this picture here, Mark is spraying it right on top of the plants. So it's not going to hurt it. However, if you completely coat the plant with biochar and then it dries on it and it's sitting on there, if it's a nice bright flower, you will probably have some black
powder
on it. You can just rinse it off with water to rinse it off, but I would assume if the plant is completely covered in the black, which wouldn't happen because it's going to roll off those leaves. But if it did, yes, I would think that it would affect photosynthesis.
Okay. I was curious if you guys had ran into anything with it, because I definitely covered all of my plants when I was testing the kits, because most of our kit is like a foliar, and I had soaked the plants in this, and I definitely was like, they had some I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it kind of like stunted the growth. But I was like, all right, I think it's because I just drenched it in biochar, and it's not supposed to be drenched in biochar. So
yeah, it's not really made to be a foliar spray. It is
yeah,
but like I said, if it gets on some leaves, it's not that. I mean, when I water my hanging
right.
baskets, I just water it over it. If I see some on a petal, I kind of tap the petal and
Just watering with water a few times afterwards.
right,
kind
it'll
of thing.
wash it right off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Jessica, a question here on the same line. I've had good experience with a little humate, liquid humate in water, purified water, as a foliar spray on some of my medicinal plants. Would that be something you've had experience with?
Yeah, liquid humate can be used as a foliar. The biochar, like it's only an environment, so that's why it should be in the soil. But the liquid humate has been used as foliar applications.
And in fact, AgX has humic acid in it.
Yes.
And it's small enough. The biochar, it's 5 micron size, is not going to be pulled in by the stomata underneath or any of the openings, incidental openings in the leaf. So it's not going to move through the cutin and all that.
Right.
So
Well, it seems like Jerry Brunetti in the book Farmer's Ecosystem, he talked about humic acid and fulvic acid and their ability to transmute across cell membranes. And I had been using a real dilute humate mix with my foliar sprays, and I was encouraged when I read that. It sounded like it probably wasn't doing any harm at all.
Oh,
And
it's
it's a
not doing
dilute
any harm.
mix.
No, it's used, and that's why it's in the Ag X, which is also not only drench, it's also a foliar spray application for the
Oh,
Ag
great.
X.
Can't wait to get
The
that.
biochar isn't going to move through the cell walls
Yeah,
or
that much I got.
in between the cell walls. It's not actually the cell wall; it's moving between the cell walls.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. So just, yeah, if anybody has any questions, just pipe on in. So the Vital Blend 5M, the ingredients, same thing. So it's our biochar and our liquid humate, and we've already discussed what those are, and the wet milling process of the biochar. So now we're getting into the application rates, a little more detailed for the Vital Blend 5M, where Laurie mentioned the 1 to 2 gallons per acre. The plants and the trees are all depending on size and condition. And then for tank mixes, whether you're mixing with compost teas, fertilizers, and nutrients, you can apply 1 to 4 ounces concentrate per gallon of diluted fertilizer and apply that at the manufacturer's recommended rates of the fertilizer. Again, you want to reduce the volume of your other nutrients and fertilizers by 15 to 30%, just because we can make them more available and prevent leaching by using our product. Reduce your watering again. So a lot of this is just a repeat of the Vital Blend granular.
Where did you get this beautiful picture?
Yeah.
Who got us this? Robert Spiller.
Nice.
So this is actually one of Robert Spiller's customers. It was a cornfield in Alabama. And we used our soil microbiometer that shows the micrograms of carbon in the soil and a bacterial fungal percentage. And the very first test that was taken before any applications were made was May 2nd. And basically the biology in the soil was 54 micrograms per gram. That is extremely low. That number is actually probably one of the lowest that I've seen. This farmer, if I'm correct, Robert, and you can cut in if I'm not, but he had a large amount of nutrients, fertilizers built up in the soil, but he was no longer experiencing the benefits from those. The soil was dead, and so the biology wasn't able to break those new bonds of the nutrients to be able to utilize them by the plant. So all these nutrients are there. He's putting all this money into his field, but unfortunately, the plants aren't able to utilize any of this without the soil biology. So we did a Vital Blend application, and I believe, Robert, he did not fertilize this year.
No, he didn't. It already got so big that he couldn't fertilize it. And we had a drought on top of that, unprecedented drought down here this year. And it didn't produce 20 bushels to the acre on it, but still it done better than what did across the street. But still it was one of the worst, if not the worst crop season he's ever experienced down here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Of course. Well, you know what? At least he used the Vital Blend. It probably helped lessen some of that
Oh yeah.
environmental pressure.
And I still haven't got all the reports back on the cotton that we done down there, but there again, the cotton was so bad that one end of the field might get a 1/4 inch of rain, and the other end of the field not get any rain at all, and then be 3 weeks between, a 1/10 of an inch of rain.
Yeah.
It was.
So,
it was
we can't make miracles, but we can't make it rain. But what we can do, and what we see in these tests, is 20 days after one Vital Blend 5M application and no fertilizers were used whatsoever, we saw an 40% increase in our soil biology in just the 20 days. And we also saw an increase in the fungal to bacteria ratio. A really healthy soil will have between 1 and 2 parts fungal to 1 part bacterial. Typically, you'll want higher fungal numbers. And if you see 4% fungal, 96% bacterial, it bumped up to 7 and 93. And then just 40 days after the initial one application, he went from 54 micrograms of carbon up to 282. And all
Yeah.
he's done is added our vital blend. And then if you look at that fungal to bacteria ratio, went up to 35% fungal from 4% originally in 40 days. That's pretty incredible. And while I wish it would have rained and you would have had a little better weather, the corn still looked beautiful in this picture. And that is a picture Robert sent me of the field. But we will take another test in spring and see that continue. And I think the more and more we build up, I mean, a really healthy soil can have between 800 up to, I've seen as high as 1600 micrograms of carbon. So as we continue to increase the carbon in the soil and the biology in the soil, you know, then we'll also be able to see that increase in the plant's natural defenses to water, nutrient holding capacity, pest and environmental stresses, heat protection, that kind of thing. And it's all about getting a healthy soil biology by giving them a perfect home and a perfect food source with the biochar and the humate. Just like our gut health, you increase the health of the soil's gut, you're going to increase the health of the plant and the people that eat the plants. So here,
Well, Robert, can I ask you a question, buddy?
please.
Michael here. What was these are incredible numbers, really great fungal increase. What's the gentleman's soil like
Oh,
characteristically?
it's red clay and sand.
Oh, okay.
One end of the field's red clay, and then you'll hit a spot down there and be just like beach sand.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got a little more work to do there still, but yeah, it was really, I was really happy to see these numbers.
you're looking at land that was burned up during it was the ground down here was grown to death during the Civil War. I mean, there hadn't this ground in this part of the country has been farmed to death over the years, and then after it was farmed to death, your fertilizer companies and chemical companies have come in here, and Monsanto's and these other chemical companies and fertilizer companies have come in here and just pilferated the ground with your phosphorus, nitrogen, and potash, and then it gets so hot that it can't burn. You know, nothing will grow with them. Well, we'll throw some lime on it to neutralize it a little bit, and then they'll put that on there, and then they'll come back and they'll throw some more fertilizer on it to make it grow. So it's just been farmed to death down here, and it's bad practices, and the dirt's dead.
Yeah, well,
That was impressive increases.
yeah, and we'll see you. I'll keep you guys updated in spring on that. But
I might have to pop off, guys.
okay, Nick, I'll send you this video.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
So these are those increases of the water holding capacity that I was showing you in what I was talking about earlier. So the Vital Blend 5M, this is where we saw a 41.1% increase of water holding capacity in this test. And the granular had between an 8.6 and a 17.1% increase in water holding
And I always like
capacity.
to mention something about this. This is in June of 2019. In June, really, if you consider the month of June, it's just the beginning of summer. So the application was done this year and the reading was done in June. So I would be very, very, very surprised if we didn't see a much increased amount of change between control and if it had had the whole rest of the summer at least, and then we measured it again in the fall. I just always want to remind people about that. June is not, we didn't give it much time.
Yeah, and the granular, I think, does take a little more time working its way down into the soil to be able to do that. If you test it right after you put the application down, the 5M, which is a benefit of the 5M, will immediately infiltrate the soil, and it also spreads very homogeneously throughout the soil very quickly. And the granular will take some time to work down in the soil, while for that exact same reason, if it's going to take time, it's the larger particle sizes and it has that benefit of providing that airspace. So here is some granular, and I'll go quickly through these. Oh, I'm sorry, we are on the 5M. Thanks, Laurie. So these are some Vital Blend 5M results. This was just a year after one application was done. Not much to say about it. We also had this nutrient density increase, which I bring up a lot, but I think it's also a really incredible result where we saw 125% increase in protein, 33% more fiber, and 11% more antioxidants with versus without. And I believe this is about what, a gallon and a half an acre was applied of the Vital Blend 5M. Also, one thing that our blueberry farmers have noticed is the blueberries have been a lot more firm. They have less being squished during mechanical picking. And I believe that's because of the increase in fiber, that the berry is a firmer berry. And so they have increased their profit margins as well as their nutrient density and harvest weight, which is really exciting. It's also used heavily in turf and landscape. The top two are before pictures, the bottom two are after pictures, and this was from a landscape company in Dowagiac, Michigan. And this actually on the left, the Vital Blend was applied to the front half of the lawn, and we had a couple weeks of a drought. The back half went dormant like the turf does when it when you're experiencing a drought or not as healthy turf. And the front half obviously showed that water holding capacity. It stayed greener longer. Then another application was applied, and it was applied to the entire lawn in the right picture. And you can see a lot of the weeds were kicked out. A lot of those bare spots were filled in with grass, and it's obviously a lot greener.